was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you? I have never in my life yelled at a girl like this.
Tyra really scared all of us. Like, we literally jumped out of our seats.
It's definitely the most difficult moment on set I had ever experienced.
Tyra Banks really scared all of us. Like, we were sitting at home and still jumped.
How dare you?
That moment has lived on the internet for over 20 years. It's a meme, it's a soundbite, it's basically reality TV scripture at this point. But now, that same clip is being used as evidence. Evidence that Tyra was toxic, manipulative, emotionally abusive. She was the villain of America's Next Top Model. So the question is, was Tyra Banks actually unhinged? Or are we just watching 2003 through the eyes of 2026? What's up, you guys? Welcome back. Today we're diving into Tyra Banks' America's Next Top Model and the Netflix documentary that receives tons of backlash, not only from the judges themselves, but also from the former contestants. And we'll talk about whether Tyra deserves a second cancellation tour, because the internet has revived this conversation like it's a reboot season. First of all, Tyra Banks is not just some random reality TV host. Tyra was that girl. She's a supermodel. She was a Victoria's Secret angel. She was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. She does acting, she hosts, and she produces. And then she created America's Next Top Model. She didn't just host it, she created it. She was an executive producer, and she fought to get it on the air. And at the time, it was revolutionary. We're talking about plus size models, short models, black girls, Asian girls, girls with gaps, girls who did not fit the traditional runway mold. And that really mattered, because whether people wanted to admit it or not, that show changed what a model could look like on mainstream TV. But two things can be true at once. It was groundbreaking and it was also chaotic. Let's get into the moment where Tiffany gets eliminated. She laughs, Tyra loses it, and the rest is history. And at that time, people ate that up. It was dramatic, it was intense, and it was peak reality TV. But now, people are rewatching it and they go, oh, that feels humiliating. And former contestants have said that the yelling went on longer than what was actually aired, and that production pushed emotional buttons. The environment wasn't always healthy. But again, that's reality TV. And now the narrative is Tyra emotionally manipulated these girls. But here's the part that people forget. Reality TV shows in the early 2000s was not gentle. American Idol judges were brutal.
I don't mean to be unkind, but you have one of the worst singing voices.
Fear Factor had people eating bugs.
Dude, you have to chew it too. I want to see.
Turn it, let me see. Legs are moving, dude. Antennas moving. Say goodbye.
Bye, baby.
Dude, that still creeps me out.
And Survivor was psychological warfare.
Drops.
Jamal struggling to get off the platform.
Oh! Oh!
What do you feel about?
Are you okay?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. I just fell.
Humiliation was basically a genre back then, and that doesn't excuse the harm, but it does give context to the time. So now, years later, former contestants are speaking out and they're saying there wasn't enough mental health support and that certain makeovers went too far. They're also saying that storylines were manipulated and that editing made things worse. And suddenly, Tyra is being framed as the mastermind villain behind everything. And here's where it gets interesting. A lot of the judges and producers who were there at the time are now saying, well, that wasn't great. Okay, but you guys were still there collecting paychecks. You guys were participating, and Tyra wasn't the only one there. So why is she the only one responsible? Or could it be that because she's the most famous and she has the most recognizable face, that she's taking up all the heat? The internet loves a singular villain. It's cleaner, it's easier, and it's clickable. Ironically enough, she is the black sheep in this situation. So in all, like, a systemic industry problem doesn't trend and it doesn't make the headlines, but Tyra Banks exposed really does. We have to talk about the era. We have to go back into the early 2000s mindset where bullying wasn't as big of a deal as it is now. 2003 was different. People said wild things on television. There are all sorts of comments about body and what was the norm. tough love was entertainment. And at the same time, the audience that loved the show back then is now shocked watching it through modern lenses. The growth is good and we should evolve, but retroactively applying today's standards to yesterday's culture will always create outrage and internet drama. Now, was everything okay? No, the gap tooth conversation was uncomfortable and some of those makeovers extremely wild. The emotional pressure, yes, it was intense, but did Tyra wake up and say, I want a traumatized young woman today? I don't think so. I think she was being dramatic for dramatic sakes for the sake of television. And in the system that rewarded drama, it worked. Here's a hard question. If some of these contestants had gone on to become global supermodels, would they be calling it trauma? Or would they be calling it the boot camp that made me this? That's uncomfortable, but it's worth asking because success changes narratives and failure often looks for a villain. Again, I'm not saying nobody was hurt. I'm not saying Tyra was perfect. I'm saying it's more complicated than what Twitter threads are making it seem. And so what fascinates me about this whole situation, it's not even Tyra, it's the cycle. We build people up, we idolize them, we meme them, and then 15 years later, we dig through those archives and demand apologies. And sometimes it's fair, but sometimes it's just cultural whiplash because the standards change, language changes, sensitivity changes, and suddenly yesterday's normal is today's scandal. And I want to end this a little differently because this isn't just about Tyra, it's about how we treat people when the culture shifts. The Bible has a verse in James that says, mercy triumphs over judgment. And I feel like we're living in a very judgment-heavy era. And yes, accountability does matter, but so does grace. And if we believe people can grow, if we believe people can evolve, then we have to leave room for that. Otherwise, we're all one viral clip away from being someone's villain origin story. Tyra wasn't perfect, and she still isn't, but none of us were in 2003. I, for one, was not. The real question is, do we want justice or do we want to throw someone under the bus again? And sometimes those aren't always the same thing. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit the like and subscribe for more deep dives like this. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Tyra wrong, misunderstood, or somewhere in the middle? And I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe for more videos. This has been your voice of value, where even your wallet gets therapy. Until next time.